Okay. Well, Father, I'm sure there's a lot more that can be said on that topic, but I wanted to get into some of these other things that we had. We had a great link sent to us by one of our faithful viewers from this courthousenewsservice.com, and apparently it's titled "Psychologists Map Out Underlying Traits to Identify Violent Extremists." And just a few little quotes from this article. They say that a new study uncovered a, quote, psychological signature, end quote, of those who hold extreme and violent ideological beliefs, revealing a combination of unconscious cognition and personality traits that could help identify and treat those who are more likely to act violently. They say the psychologists were able to map out psychological signatures of those prone to violent conservative extremism and dogmatism, those who are unlikely to believe in evidence and carry a fixed view of the world. They have a quote here from the psychologist that says, the brains of more dogmatic people are slower to process perceptual evidence, but they are more impulsive personality-wise. The mental signature for extremism across the board is a blend of conservative and dogmatic psychologies, the researchers said. So, Father, they talk about wanting to treat those who are vulnerable to political and religious extremism. They talk about those in their communities who can identify those who are prone to this extremism and helping to treat them. And our viewer says, Father, this certainly, what they're describing here certainly seems to describe traditional Catholics. So what is your thought on this, Father?
It is an attempt to position some kind of scientific explanation why people are conservative, why people believe in dogma. Okay, the curious thing is, Francis himself would probably endorse that study. Yeah. Francis himself has these same ideas that are expressed there. By the way, where did you have a printout of an article there, which related that? And I see on the front page there, where the article begins, is a photograph of Trump supporters, right?
That's right, yes.
So it's very clear that we're talking about Trump supporters as the dogmatic people who cannot process evidence and have a fixed view of the world, right, et cetera, and are more prone to violence, okay? They have this psychological signature, right, that was discovered, by the way. They just discovered this psychological signature. Where was this published here?
This was on courthousenewsservice.com. It was done in the wake of the...
Courthouse News Service. Who wrote that article?
This was by one John Parton.
John Parton. Okay, I'd like to know a little more about him, because he obviously just to swallow this hook, line, and sinker. And there's a reason why he's publishing this, because he's making this known, because as far as he's concerned, this is the ticket right here. We're talking about psychology. We're talking about psychologists, okay? And I mean, I heard about this, and the lead researcher was a woman about 30 years old. Okay, she got a doctorate in 2016 when she was in her 20s, and from Cambridge. So she has to be fairly bright. Okay, her name is Leor Zmigrod. Zmigrod is the woman's name, and I mean, she thinks like a 30-year-old psychologist. The fact that she has a PhD from evidently from Cambridge. It rather should not be impressive at all. People with PhDs from Columbia and other radical leftist universities, one should not take that as an endorsement. One should take that as a warning, okay? That these are radicals, that these are radical leftists. They have an agenda to pursue. And what she wants to do is to try to use her quote-unquote science to stigmatize all of those who are not leftists. And to show, I mean, basically, by definition, anybody who's not a leftist, who doesn't support the leftist position, is automatically a conservative, automatically a Trump supporter, right? And this is part of that Trump derangement syndrome, that we see. And also the attempt to cover over their radical leftism with a veneer of science, which is a complete sham and a fraud, It talks about those who cannot process data and evidence. And we see how leftists are all based on evidence and data and how accurate they are in their interpretation of these things, right? I mean, we see how accurate they are even counting votes in elections, right? Man, they're data-driven, that's for sure. Masks and all the rest, right? It's all data-driven. The whole pandemic farce, which would be comedy if it weren't tragedy. And this Leor Zmigorod, by the way, was a Gates Foundation, Gates Cambridge scholar. She had the Gates Cambridge Scholarship from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Now, I mean, would that possibly suggest some sort of orientation on her part, and her way of her thinking, and maybe this Bill and Melinda Gates Cambridge Scholarship might be reserved for those who follow the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation line of thinking, right? Yeah. I think there's a certain indication of that. But this is rather concerning because of what's going on here in the United States, and that is they're trying to say that people who are conservative and notably dogmatic, traditional Catholics, definitely targeted by this, are dangerous, that they're criminally dangerous. It's almost like they're criminally insane. They're mentally deranged. They need to be re-educated. They must be cured. They have to be treated. That's it. They have to be treated, okay? I'm sure there's a vaccine for this in the works right now, right? But they have to be treated. And people need to be able to identify who they are in their neighborhoods, right? These people who are basically tending to be violent and therefore criminally insane because they cannot process evidence the way the leftists can, and they believe in a fixed world. Well, when you process evidence sort of implies there's a fixed world. Yeah. But see, their processing evidence says there is no fixed world. What kind of evidence is this? Except for the fact that maybe they're insane, you know? But maybe they're totally out of touch with reality. Maybe, right? But those who are, therefore, in touch with reality are insane, and they have to stop it. They have to be made to stop it. They have to be cured. They have to be treated. Otherwise, what if they cannot be successfully treated, Tom? What would you do with someone like that? They have a psychological signature which says they are prone to violence because of their inability to process evidence. The evidence given to them, of course, by the leftists. But they're going to have to be eliminated or locked up. They're going to have to be incapacitated. Something's going to have to be done, right, to contain them or to eliminate them, one or the other. So, this is the direction all of this is heading. And the fact is that we're just watching it happen before our very eyes. And we're hearing, all these reports about, we're going to turn this thing around. Just wait. We got political solutions. Oh yeah, just wait. We're gonna make this turn out right. It's coming soon. And so people are willing to say, okay, I'm willing to wait. I'm like, well, can't wait for the day. And waited, and they waited, and they waited, and they waited, and here we are. And so I think the question here is positioning the society to look upon traditional Catholics and anyone who is a conservative bent of mind, who believes in objective reality, which they call dogmatism, who believes in objective morality, right and wrong, is not only going to be stigmatized, but they're going to be criminalized. And they're going to be treated like criminals. Mm-hmm. And but they're going to be treated as sick people who need to be treated. That's where, in the Soviet Union, you saw people taken away and given shock treatments. That's where you saw people taken away to the psychiatric wards and injected with all kinds of chemicals, right? Mm-hmm. Made guinea pigs. They're actually they're paving the way for that right now, here in America. Yeah. This will become communist China.
Father, I thought that perhaps the scariest aspect of this would be how it seems like they're encouraging their people within the community to try and identify people like this, so that
just like the Soviet Union.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's Stalinism all over again. Yeah. And again, they want to create a society with a social score. And your social score decides what privileges you're allowed to have from the Communist Party. No rights. No one has any rights. All one can hope for is to have privileges granted by the Communist Party because you've been a good boy or good girl, which means you've supported the Communist Party and its program. And one of the most important things you can do to support the Communist Party is turn in your neighbor, right? That shows real loyalty. Yeah. Denounce your neighbor. Denounce your brother, your sister, your parents, right? Same thing that was going on in the Soviet Union. It's happening before our very eyes with these people right now.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Well, then, another email that I wanted to get to